My name is Dr. Talia Marcheggiani. I'm a naturopathic doctor with a focus in mental health and emotional wellness, as well as hormonal health and hormone balancing. And today I'm going to deliver a short video about some foods that you can add to your diet to help your mental health. So these are all medicinal foods that act like prescriptions, like antidepressants that you can just add to your diet. So a lot of these foods are recommended based on the idea that depression is an inflammatory condition in the brain. There's more and more research that shows that there's low levels of inflammation in people who have depression and anxiety and other mental health conditions like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, ADD, ADHD, and even subdiagnostic symptoms such as brain fog and cognitive disruption. So all of these are a result of some kind of inflammation in the brain. And so a lot of these foods are working to heal depression and anxiety through their anti-inflammatory properties. And so the first thing that is recommended to eat are lots of anti-inflammatory fats. These are omega-3 fatty acids, such as fish oil. So you can either increase the amount of fish oil by having fatty fish 3 times a week, and this, you can remember what a fatty fish is by the acronym SMASH. And SMASH stands for sardines, mackerel, anchovy, salmon, and herring, and also trout, so smashed. And these kind of fish are rich in the omega-3s, EPA and DHA. Our body can make EPA, but some of us have impaired ability to make it, and so supplementing is necessary for a lot of these people. If you're looking for a fish oil, make sure that you're looking for one that has a higher amount of EPA compared to DHA. This is very important because studies on depression are very favorable for fish oil supplementation, but the ratio of EPA to DHA has to be at least 3 to 1 or higher. And the higher the ratio, the higher the amount of EPA relative to DHA, the better the antidepressant effects and the mood regulating effects. So fish oil was actually showed positive outcomes treating bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. So there's a mood stabilizing effect as well. And we think because our brain is made up largely of DHA and EPA, but also the anti-inflammatory effects are very helpful for mood and for emotional balancing and mood balancing. Coconut oil is also another great oil you can add to your diet. Coconut oil is it's a saturated fat, but it's rich in something called medium chain triglycerides. So these are saturated fats that the body uses readily for energy. So they don't go through the normal process of digestion that other fats have to go through. They're absorbed in our lymphatic system. So we get those fats, we get the energy from those fats right away. Coconut oil is very antibacterial and antifungal, so it can help regulate bacterial balance in our gut, and it can give you a boost of energy. There's also some evidence that being in ketosis, so this means relying on fats for energy as opposed to carbohydrates and to an extent proteins, being in ketosis, so burning fat for fuel or body fat or dietary fat has a mood stabilizing effect. And so you might read about intermittent fasting and ketogenic diet. I wouldn't recommend doing that without working with a functional medicine practitioner, a nutritionist, or a naturopath, because there are some negative downsides to doing those kind of diets prolonged without supervision. But there is some growing evidence for that. But one thing you can do is add coconut oil to a morning smoothie or eat a couple tablespoons in the morning. Even looking at some bulletproof coffee recipes, that can also help with keeping your mood steady and your energy high in the morning. Staying on the topic of fats and nuts is something called, that's really great for mental health, are Brazil nuts. And Brazil nuts are high in a nutrient called selenium, which our body needs to create an antioxidant, the main antioxidant in our body, glutathione. So you may have heard me talk about N-acetylcysteine, NAC, which is an amino acid that I often recommend for people with bipolar disorder, for schizophrenia, and to an extent depression and anxiety, and especially personality disorders like borderline personality. There can be a very strong mood stabilizing effect with NAC. And that's probably because, we're not exactly sure why that is, but it's probably because NAC is the precursor. It's what our body uses to make glutathione. But we can't make glutathione without selenium. So 2 Brazil nuts a day. They're really delicious and fun to eat. They're big nuts. 2 Brazil nuts a day gives you the 200 micrograms of selenium that's the therapeutic dose. It's also helpful for thyroid health. Another thing I tend to recommend, and I'm recommending a lot more in my practice, is collagen, specifically gelatin, but for the more health food minded people, going with a collagen hydrolysate supplement is that's from grass-fed meat is something that I often recommend. But for most people and myself, I just throw some gelatin that you can buy at Bulk Barn into a shake or into a seed bowl or into something that I'm eating like oatmeal, or I'll make Jello out of it. And so gelatin is really rich in collagen, so it's made from the hooves of animals, and collagen has a gut stabilizing effect, so it can help heal the gut. A lot of us suffer from something called leaky gut, in which inflammation in the gut makes its way into the rest of our body and can affect our brain. Leaky gut can often result in leaky brain, resulting in inflammation in the brain and then mental health symptoms. So collagen helps to repair the gut barrier and the blood-brain barrier. It's also very anti-inflammatory because it's high in an amino acid called glycine, which is a calming neurotransmitter as well as an amino acid. It can also help balance the immune system. So anyone that has a low level of autoimmunity, or maybe your immune system is on the sluggish side and you're getting colds and flus and infections more readily than others, collagen is a great supplement for that, because our main sources of protein, meat, legumes, whole grains, nuts and seeds, don't contain a lot of glycine. We're pretty glycine deficient in our society because we're not eating that much gelatin. We're not getting as much bone broth. And so you can get collagen from making bone broth, from stewing bones and accessing that bone marrow. You can get it from something like gelatin, which is from hooves, from the collagen-rich membranes, the cartilages of animals. There's also fish collagen for more vegetarian, pescatarian oriented people. Collagen is also really great for anti-aging, for treating hair loss, for skin, and for cellulite. So all kind of aesthetic things that might bring someone into my practice, but also really great for mood balancing. A good source of protein as well. So you can either just throw it into a shake, mix it into some water, or make your own Jello. And I make Jello by boiling some fruit, about a cup of blueberries in water. I boil it until the blueberry juice is extracted. Then I add a couple tablespoons of gelatin, and then I put it in the fridge until it's hard, and you have a natural Jello you can serve to your kids. It's pretty good. Another great food to help balance your mood and mental health is turmeric. So turmeric or curcumin, as it's scientifically called, is a spice that is used mostly in India. It's a yellow spice. It will stain things yellow, your clothes, your counter, your intestines. That has very, very, very strong anti-inflammatory benefits. It also helps the liver detoxify. It's been shown to have anti-cancer properties. It's a really powerful, very nutrient-rich plant root. So studies have shown that 2 grams per day of turmeric actually outperform Prozac for treating depression. And probably this is due to its anti-inflammatory properties in really lowering inflammation in the brain, which we know is really one of the underlying roots of depression. The way that we get to that inflammation is different in every person with depression, but there is this kind of common thread of inflammation that's going on in every case of mental health condition, mental illness. And so adding turmeric to foods or supplementing with turmeric is a great way to combat that inflammation and keep moods balanced. Some other foods you might want to add to your diet are foods that are rich in zinc. So these are mainly things like pumpkin seeds. You gotta get about 2 cups though of pumpkin seeds to get a decent therapeutic dose of zinc, or oysters, or you can supplement with zinc. Zinc is anti-inflammatory, can help heal the gut. We need it to make neurotransmitters and enzymes that our brain needs to balance mood. And there's also some studies that zinc increases something called BDNF. BDNF is a chemical in the brain that helps with neurogenesis. This is the creation of new neurons in an area of the brain called the hippocampus. So you may have heard you can't teach an old dog new tricks, or that our neurons never regenerate once we reach a certain age, and this is not true because new research has shown that we do have neurogenesis, something called neurogenesis, that increases and changes and grows new neurons even as we age. And so anyone suffering with brain fog or really high amounts of cognitive stress or mental illness may benefit from zinc, as that increases the neurogenic abilities of the brain. It's also very anti-inflammatory, and it can help with leaky gut and leaky brain situations. Vegetarians, unfortunately, are often deficient in zinc just because we get most of it from animal products and animal sources. But really upping your pumpkin seed intake might get you to zinc, or to a therapeutic level of zinc, or you can supplement as well. Another really great addition to your diet to help balance mood and to improve your mental and cognitive health are fermented foods. So these include things like kefir, kombucha, kimchi, sauerkraut, and yogurts if you do dairy. And so these things, they contain probiotics, and studies show that it may be better to supplement or to add fermented foods to your diet rather than supplementing with a probiotic. And this is obviously an individualized recommendation that would have to be made by a doctor, but adding fermented foods to your diet, especially if you make them at home and ferment them at home, like you make your own kombucha, your own kefir, that can actually boost the probiotic capacity of your gut. And so probiotics actually make neurotransmitters. They make things like serotonin and the calming neurotransmitter GABA, and they can help us digest our food, like gluten, as well as combat inflammation and regulate sort of our entire immune system. It's also important to feed those probiotics with something called resistant starch that you can find in carbohydrates that have been cooled to room temperature after they've been cooked. So for example, brown rice that's after it's been cooked has been cooled to room temperature, potato starch, green bananas, black beans, and Jerusalem artichokes. These are all starches that bacteria feed on, and that sort of keeps them populated in the gut. Coconut oil tends to kill more pathogenic bacteria and therefore can promote a healthy bacterial balance. And lastly, I'm going to talk about leafy greens. So, adding a cup of spinach or 2 cups of spinach or chard to your diet will give you the amount of magnesium you need. Magnesium has a calming effect on the body. We need it to make the neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine and melatonin to help with sleep. Magnesium also kind of can help balance mood and help us with stress. A lot of us suffer from stress. It can also make our brain more resilient to stress, as stress is one of the major causes of neuroinflammation in people with mental illness. And this can be stress from a significant trauma, it can be psychosocial stress, interpersonal stress, the stress of being out of work, whatever, even sort of long-term chronic stress or burnout from school and work and things like that. So 2 cups of spinach gives you your daily magnesium serving. You can also get it from chocolate, but you need to eat quite a bit of chocolate. So, in boosting your mental health or, in promoting mental and emotional wellness, you can add all of these foods to your diet and balance your inflammation, feel good, and nourish yourself.